Today, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons to move to the Dominican Republic. But here's the kicker. These aren't my reasons. Look, if you follow the channel for a while, you know why I say move here. But I wanted to get other people, other expats, other residents of the Dominican Republic to share with you exactly why they moved here or maybe why they stayed here. Let's dive in. I have a YouTube podcast called Grub with Gruber, where I sit down with different people at local Dominican restaurants and have discussions about life, moving, living, business, whatever it might be. And I went back to the first 5 episodes that we've released so far and picked out a key reason that each of my guests gave for living in the Dominican Republic. And maybe more importantly, how that relates to you. I'll tee up each segment as we go through them so you know exactly what you're looking for. And the 5th one, I encourage you to stick around for because it was the most meaningful and impactful one that I heard. By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name's Jamie Gruber. I quit my job and moved to the Dominican Republic with my family, and I share the highs and lows, the ups and downs of all of that here on this channel for you. All right, let's dive into the segments, and I'll share the links to every restaurant I was at down below in the caption. Here we go. First reason, safety. I've talked about it. You may have seen it in prior videos of mine. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing it. The idea that it's more safe, or we feel more safe living in the Dominican Republic than, say, the United States. Let's hear from Becky Nova. We sat down at Market inside of Blue Mall in Punta Cana. She shared her take on safety. Check this out. What's your take on safety here? Like, I know that's a concern for a lot of people, but like, what does that mean to you? What do you feel is, do you feel safe? Where do you feel unsafe? How do you feel unsafe? Do you ever?
So when we first came down here, back in 2016, the first time I just visited the country more on a vacation, Emilio, my husband, was so scared of absolutely everything. We stayed in Santo Domingo.
By the way, this guy, he's a big dude.
My husband's a large man.
Dominican man.
Correct.
Yes.
Not exactly the guy you'd want to pick a fight with.
No,
or,
I would never.
You know, I feel like most people, you'd see him in a dark street, you'd be like, I'm walking away from that guy.
I asked him for permission to have a date with you. Right? My wife as well, but I asked him. So,
Very smart.
Yes.
But the first time when we came down, I remember we were at this hotel and he was going to take me to the colonial zone, right? Where they have all the touristy things. And I'm talking like, you know, the old German people that have socks on with like Tevas. So I thought I would have been fine to walk around this area. We're leaving the hotel and he's like, well, you can't bring, I don't want you to bring your wallet because, you know, just in case anything happens on the street. I'm like, okay, lock that up, put that in the safe. And he's like, you probably shouldn't bring your camera. Back in the day when you actually had a camera. So I was like, okay, that's the whole point of sightseeing, but okay, fine. He's like, no, you know, it's too dangerous. You know, we can't leave it. So I'm like, okay. So I blocked that up. And then he was like, well, I guess you really shouldn't bring your phone. You know, you have an iPhone. So I was like, okay. And then I looked and I was like, well, I guess I don't have anything to put in a purse. So I'm like, I guess I don't need to bring a purse because there's now nothing in it.
Sure.
So he really was very concerned when we first got here. I traveled a lot. Like I said, I've lived in multiple countries. I traveled for about 6 months a year on my own back in my 20s. I wasn't really very concerned here like he was. But I felt like he ingrained in me that like you had to be so wary of anybody around, which probably was helpful at the beginning. Here in Punta Cana, I don't really worry about things like that. Yeah. I think just as much as in the States, you still have to just be smart. Like if you've had too many drinks, be careful walking on the streets, especially at night.
Oh, yeah.
Don't, you know, have your wallet out. Don't be flashing money. I think, unfortunately, not enough people are wary of those things, but it doesn't matter to me if you were here or if you were back in your home neighborhood. I think there's just smart things you have to do, but I feel very safe here.
Driving is the thing I feel least safe with. Honestly,
really? Why would that be?
Yeah, I know. Not even as much here in Punta Cana, but like just around. And when it gets like, we drove back from Cabarete to Santo Domingo, what's today? 3-4 days
Monday.
ago. Yeah, so like last week, Thursday, Friday last week. And we got back later than I expected into Santo Domingo from Cabarete, and it was dark. It got dark. I had my kids, my wife. It makes me nervous, not because of like, I don't think anybody's gonna mug me or jump on the car or anything like that. But, you know, like roadside isn't as available if something happens, and the driving at night, there's no lights on motorcycles, there's no lights on some cars, right?
That's the crazy part.
I can't see things, right? Like, and all of our, I don't know about your windows, my windows are tinted, all of the windows, so it's like, it's so hard to see at night that I'm gonna hit a pedestrian because they assume everybody's gonna stop, like, or they assume they'll get across. There's no notice of, I've always said Dominican drivers go and then look second.
Correct.
Right? So,
I completely agree with that. We do something similar. Emilio does not like to drive after dark.
Yeah.
Like we have to get like back to like the neighborhood or like be close.
Right.
But coming from the north to the south or vice versa, the new highway that they put in, absolutely fantastic to be able to really just get to other areas of the country. That was great. But that road is very deserted. All of a sudden service goes out. So even if something did happen, one, there's no place to walk to.
Right.
Two, sometimes you can't make a phone call.
Yep.
So that part gets really kind of tough. But on that road, regardless, you're not going to find a pedestrian there. But if somebody wanted to pretend, and this happens in the States as well, if somebody wanted to pretend that their car broke down and you stop for help, and then all of a sudden, there's nobody else around.
Yeah.
There's nothing there at all. And honestly, on that road, there could be a cow or a goat crossing the street.
100%.
And you have no idea.
100%. I love the term lifestyle freedom. It's what I pursue over, say, even financial freedom. I want to live my life in a way that's comfortable and freeing for me. My friend Pablo Enrique sat down with me at La Terra Negra inside of Puertocito, again, in the Dominican Republic. And he shared his take on what moving to the Dominican Republic meant for him from New York in terms of lifestyle freedom.
The great thing about living here is that, in this area specifically, when we purchased the apartment that we now live in, we moved down the block. So we knew that the guy that developed our complex, he developed 3 complexes already in the neighborhood. So we knew, which is one of the things to be careful with here when you do buy, that we'll probably talk about later. We knew that he had a name stake in the area. We knew that he had multiple complexes there. So we moved to his first one. We live there, but we can literally walk out of our house and see the complex that we were eventually gonna live in being built. Right? So we knew that we felt safe, we felt good about it. I love the neighborhood. The neighborhood we live in right now, like the way I always put it is that we're in the United States, so you're gonna get a neighborhood where it's affordable to live in, it's safe to live in, and I can walk 10 minutes to the beach. Like literally, we can go to the beach right now if you want. You know, we're right down the block.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It's like right there.
You walked here.
I walked here. Yeah, I live right down the block.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere. Right.
And so let's talk about that change really quick, because when I moved here,
I'm gonna have another one.
Please do. When I moved here, the supermarket, which is the major supermarket here, which is called Jumbo, was not here.
It wasn't there?
No, it wasn't there yet. They were just finished. They were just putting the paint on to get it ready to come in when we moved. This restaurant that we're sitting in now, this entire complex was not here in 2017. None of it. This was dirt, right? So even I talk about where in my neighborhood specifically, which is maybe, I guess, 9 to 10 block, right? Around that, like a square radius of it. And even in that complex, if you walk across the complex about 4 to 5 blocks, I've seen 7 complexes come up just in the past 5 years there.
No kidding.
And then on top of that, just next door here, they're building 2 to 3 more. Like, it's so much just growth. And I saw that opportunity in 2017 to come here and kind of be a little bit ahead of it to get a good quality price.
A lot ahead, no?
And then more than I realized.
Right.
And then get a good quality price that we can actually, okay, now we own our home, right? And within the 5 years, we paid it off. So I owe it free.
One of my favorite things about living in the Dominican Republic truly is the culture and the people and how happy they are. It just wears off on you. But something I think a lot of people don't understand is how much financial opportunity there is. The question is, what are jobs? The answer is, don't worry about jobs and look at these opportunities. My friend Eduardo sat down with me at Herman 311 in Bávaro, and he told a great story about how friendly the culture is, but more than that, he took financial opportunities beyond the job market and into bigger and better plays for you. Let's go.
And there is something that I've never have found in any country in my life, the places that I have been, it's how Dominicans are. Dominicans, it's like super friendly, super cool people. I have found that Dominicans, they are truly happy people. I give an example.
Same.
I have a particular truck. I have a pickup red truck which is lifted. It's a very, I mean, you see the truck, you know?
Yeah.
If I were driving that truck in Mexico, I would be scared that somebody here, every time I park it, people tell me, God give you life enough so you enjoy it. God bless your truck. Like, and you see from people that good energy and good vibe that they are giving you, you know? Like, imagine that, such a cool phrase. May God give you enough life for you to enjoy your car. Que Dios te dé vida para que la disfrute, mi hermano. Well, like, damn, man, I mean, hey, you should give me your truck for me to go to Montear to drive it. Yeah, that's like a difference that I only have seen with Dominicans, you know? Yeah. They're true from heart goodness, that they're like good people.
So you and I live in a area that's more prominent. houses go for $600,000-$800,000, so on and so forth. We both live we're fortunate to be able to live in that kind of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I get the question a lot, or I get the comment a lot about like, Dominicans are poor. And of course, there's poverty in the Dominican Republic. I know my take. If you go around the neighborhood that we live in, what's the percentage of it that's Dominican? What is your guess? I know you don't know, but like, what is your take? Like, of 10 people you run across, how many of those 10 are Dominican?
Right, English is higher than the one we assume, I think. But I would say maybe a 70%.
That's what I say. I say 60-70% are Dominican,
70%, yeah.
and then 30% is everything else.
Yes,
A lot of Venezuelan, Colombian, Ecuadorian,
Americans,
Canadian, American, Mexicans.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's funny because I think there's a narrative that I heard. So I did this post today. It was on Conflitor. I just showed you it on Instagram, and somebody commented like, what did it say? What Dominicans? With the wages in the Dominican, how can any Dominican afford a $300,000 mortgage? And my reply was like, well, I mean, the statement in and of itself says that all Dominicans are poor.
Yes.
And like, there's a segment that are very poor. Absolutely.
Yes.
There's a middle class that ranges from like just above poor to like doing pretty well. But there's a double-digit percentage of Dominicans, I say 20, 30%. Where do you see the most income generated for locals here? People that are working here, like what industries, what jobs, what are people doing that you run across?
Look, man, in terms of jobs, I think that this is worldwide. There's going to be a cap, you know? Yeah. In terms of industries, everything I think that is related directly or indirectly to tourism. Right now, real estate is kind of related.
That is.
Because Dominican has become the last years to this oasis where Americans, Canadians, Europeans can come and invest having their second home, third home, because out of all these third world countries in the Caribbean, this is the one that gives them more trust. I mean, it's you cannot compare the Dominican Republic to any other island in the Caribbean with all my respect, you know?
No, I agree.
You go to Santo Domingo, it's a city. With skyscrapers, traffic, the whole thing. You don't have that in Jamaica or Cuba or you go to St. Thomas. Man, St. Thomas is the size of Punta Cana, you know, the whole island.
The whole island.
You cannot find that other than Dominican Republic. And infrastructure gives people trust.
Yeah.
People, all the Americans can say, okay, I can pull the trigger, I go there. I know that there are hospitals, you know. I know that there are school systems. So I think that makes the difference in Punta Cana. And whoever who can adjust their business towards that,
with tourism,
could see a good flow. I think I'm speaking only from my perspective, which is Punta Cana perspective. Yeah. Because I'm sure that in Santo Domingo, that's another planet, you know? Santo Domingo, like I said, is a real city. There's all these businesses and law firms and financial things and blah, 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 blah. Which is, how many people live in Santo Domingo?
It's like 4 million, I think.
2 million?
Four.
4 million.
Like, when you look at Metro, like Santo Domingo Este, Santo Domingo,
4 million people.
It's like 4 million in that area.
Yeah,
maybe some people say 5, but
it's a lot of people.
Big city. Right?
It's a big city, yeah, of course.
For somebody that grew up in the Dominican Republic and has visited regularly since then, you know the advances in this country around infrastructure and growth. My friend Juan Reyes and I sat down at Laurel in Santo Domingo and had a deep conversation on his experience growing up in DR, moving to the United States as a teenager, coming back for a year, and now comes back once a month regularly because of the growth that he's hacking into and seeing as he projects forward into the future. I love this segment. Wait till you hear what he has to say.
Yeah, the country, one of the things that, from a numbers perspective, I like numbers, being entrepreneur and business owner, right?
I like these potatoes.
Yes. But the GDP growth here, it has been unlike any other in the Caribbean or even Latin American countries. Like, I believe it's something like 5 or 6% a year for like many years, not only like one-off, right? So that has brought in a lot of foreign investments, like I believe in the financing field. You see a ton of banks here at every corner that we didn't see that before. Tourism, you know what's going on with tourism.
Yeah.
And but a couple of the biggest things. The main one is transportation, meaning the road system, the highway system. It used to take me, when I lived here, from Santo Domingo to go to Punta Cana, 7 hours. That was that was just the time frame you needed to plan
I
for
remember
it.
that before the highway system, because I've been coming here since '08, but we'd have to go through Otrobanda, Ique,
Yes.
Romana, all the way into.
That's right.
It took forever.
It wasn't straight shot,
No,
and
right.
it wasn't like a highway system.
Yeah.
Now you can do that commute in half the time.
Yeah.
And it's not only from here to Punta Cana. It's the same thing going to Terrenas.
Yeah.
It used to be double the time to go to Terrenas and go a completely different route.
Puerto Plata, you said too.
And to get to Puerto Plata, half the time. So that is something very, very nice because you can explore many areas of the country within a day, basically. So that's one thing. And man, when I moved from the country actually to the city when I was 14 years old, for me it was love at first sight. I fell in love with Santo Domingo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I have always
Country boy, always been a city boy though.
Man, I like the best of both places. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the best of both places, but the city it was love at first sight. Yes, I had so many great memories here. This city is amazing. There's something magical
What
about
part
this
did
city.
you grow up in here? Or what part did you come here?
Here it was in an area that is called Las Caobas. It's on the east side, west side of the city of Santo Domingo.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a beautiful city. It's we were talking about like restaurants you can go to and everything, and you can find your bad neighborhoods. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
but,
absolutely.
But overall, like the city is much more. What's the word? Cosmopolitan.
Yes.
Than I think I ever knew. I mean, I didn't spend much time here. I would be Igue and Punta Cana. So my perspective on DR was like, Igue is DR, and Punta Cana is this like very unique, and it is, very unique sort of part of the country. But I thought every city was Igue until I went to Santo Domingo, until I went to
That's right.
Santiago, until I went to even Puerto Plata. But
That's right.
Santo Domingo has a cosmopolitan feel to me, you know, in the city part, not in the barrios, but yeah.
Correct, in the city, and that's one thing is, it has always been very alive during the day. It becomes even more alive at night.
Yeah.
And it's a different atmosphere, which I have always loved since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And some of the magical parts about it is the social life that you experience here.
Yeah.
New restaurants, new venues, new places to go visit, concerts. There's a lot of culture. The city has a lot to offer. And inevitably, you meet new people all the time. You can end up doing business. You and I have spoken about
We're
this.
gonna dive deep on that because I think that is like an epiphany lately, and you shared like, yes, that's absolutely right. So we'll go into that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. So there's that magic to it that I'm very comfortable with being uncomfortable as we have spoken, and I believe there's always growth on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And it can be just personal growth. Sometimes it can be financial growth.
Yeah. All right, 4 reasons down. The 5th and final is to come. Before I share it and who it's from, just a reminder, subscribe to the channel, get notified as I drop videos here. And honestly, it's a way of showing me support if you're enjoying the content that I'm putting out. I think like 70-75% of people watching aren't subscribed. If you're willing to, it's very much appreciated. My wife, Sylvia, is from the Dominican Republic originally. She moved away to the United States when she was 12. And of course, we've moved back here together 2 years ago with our kids. And when I sat down with her, she shared this incredible story around personal growth and how much she's benefited from growing as a person here in the Dominican Republic. But beyond that, this is why I love this one and why I kept it for last, saved the best for last. Not only growth for her, but she gave me an epiphany on how as an expat, I grew. So for those of you maybe with the gringo husband or wife that are thinking of moving here, like what's the impact to them? That was a really powerful moment. And maybe most importantly, she shares some really interesting information about the growth for our children. My heart melts just talking about her. So it's such a prideful thing for me to do right now to introduce my wife for this last segment.
Something that I'm missing here that I don't think so. As far as like the reason why we're staying is the kids, right?
Yeah.
It's freeing, I guess is the word that comes back to mind as far as with the kids, right? Like I've met mothers at school. We do, like last night we had a mother's hangout
Till midnight.
till like midnight.
SBG?
At SBG. It was a lot of fun. And so, like, we didn't have that in Michigan, right? I didn't have that. I created a walking group in Michigan to meet mothers, to meet people. And here it's like after school, it's always a hangout. It's always there's always something. In Michigan, I do have to say, we ended up after a little while, I ended up creating a community of moms at the gym.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that did end up happening. And here it's just the moms from the school. There's always an event. There's always an activity. And everyone is always ready to party, to go somewhere here. Right? Like there's always I don't know how people do it. At first, I thought it was really exhausting, like always going somewhere doing something, and now it's like I'm starting to fit in. Now, like going out yesterday, like that wouldn't have happened at the very beginning.
Here's
right?
my theory on that.
Mm.
And you can eat while I'm talking.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
speak slowly so you can eat.
Yeah.
Here's my theory. I have this very deep
Messy.
thought about this whole concept.
Mm.
You can eat faster, you know.
You can talk faster.
I'm kidding. I think it is, you have to go from authentic state to altered state. There's less of a need to go. So in other words, like, I feel like in the States, if I'm gonna go out with the guys, there's like, okay, this is, I idle at 12 and I gotta ramp it to 73 on whatever it is, like the jargon, the discussion, the how I present, how I come across, all that stuff. Whereas here I'm idling at 12 and I just gotta ramp it to like 15, 16. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be exactly me sitting on the couch going out for a drink or going out with some guys just like you with the moms, but I can be pretty much me going out. I don't feel the pressure of an expectation for me to conform to a way when hanging out with other people here. Does that make sense?
I have a theory on that.
Well, but does it make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay, give me the theory.
I think the theory is you're a foreigner here, right in this country. Like when I went to Italy, when I lived in Italy for college, it was like I could be whoever I wanted to be, right? So there's some freedom in that, I think.
Yeah.
And you here is the same thing. It's like I am who I am. There's no set expectation of to what I should be or shouldn't be. Whereas for me, at the beginning, for me, it was a little bit harder in that sense, right? Like I felt like I needed to start to conform,
Like prove your Dominicanism?
prove that I was Dominican enough,
Yeah.
right? And then I woke up and I was like, no, like this is who I am. I'm a platanada gringada, right? Which means like a Dominicanized gringa
Yep.
in some ways. And it's just me finally like setting into being comfortable with that. And I feel like it's been easier for me to socialize once I accepted that.
Yeah.
For me, for
I'm think-
myself.
No, I agree. I was thinking.
I lost you there for
No.
a second.
My mind went into a thought because the question I have for you on that is, do you think, is this a distinction or no? An honest question. Tell me if this statement is true. For you in the States, you would adjust behavior to conform to an expectation that was actually there. Here, you would adjust behavior to conform to an expectation that was not there.
I don't know that it was or wasn't, but that I perceived it
Got it.
to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? I mean, I feel like in the United States too, you do have to conform. Socially, we all have
Everywhere.
to conform to
Yeah.
something
Yep.
everywhere, right? And I think it's what value do we give it? And I feel like coming back here, it's almost like I reset to a child. Now I'm in the same environment where I grew up when I was 12. I'm no longer 12. And so I have to find my way and determine who I am in this environment now as I am now, not as the memories that I had as a kid.
That's-
So I think there's something psychological to that
Look,
there, 100%.
No doubt, because I think too, like you, when you think about my perspective, your perspective, I come with like clean slate, right?
Exactly.
So like Dominicans sometimes shit on the Dominican because they have a memory of the Dominican as it was in a certain time, at a certain age, or whatever it might be. And then coming back, you're coming loaded with that pest. It's like if I went back to Long Island,
Yes.
right?
When
Like I can't stand Long Island. Yeah, no, sorry, Long Island. I can't stand Long Island. I hated it when my parents moved me away from it. Hated it. But I'm sure if I went back, it would probably be the same thing. It would probably take a couple of years for me to like to get over the biases or the perceptions that I had of what was hard about it or what I didn't like about it, right? Like, so, yeah,
Or how you should have acted.
how I
right?
should have acted. Yeah.
I mean, my grandmother was very good at like, this is how you behave in public, right?
Yeah.
So then all of that kind of comes back in some ways.
Yep.
So this has been a really good, like life-changing experience for me in some ways. It's kind of reparenting myself through it. And I know that's like a phrase that I see on Instagram a lot and all over the place, but it is true. It's like learning to reparent yourself in a different way. And this has forced me to do it in a more forceful way, I guess. but needed.
Yeah.
That I needed, right? It's like I came here for an adventure and an experience, and it's forced me to grow in so many ways. And that's one of them, like learning to own who I truly am. And as I learn to own that and to be that in this environment, I become more, I become happier, and I love it and enjoy it much more.
Let's recap and throw this up on screen. Safety, lifestyle freedom, culture and financial opportunity, infrastructure, personal growth. Which of those 5 reasons for you is the most important in terms of potentially moving, or if you have moved, to the Dominican Republic? I'd love to hear your comments down below and share for you your experience or your anticipated experience being a resident of this amazing, amazing country. I should say that amazing country because I'm technically in Michigan right now, but I'll be back there soon. Appreciate you following along, and I'll see you on the next one.